Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am so thrilled to have you all here. So many folks that I recognize, some new faces as well. So, welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm going to stop sharing now, but if you haven't already had the chance to say hello in the chat, I encourage you to pull it up and to let us know where you're joining from. And also, let us know why you're excited about the book. We have a lot of special people here today. We have authors and contributors and folks who worked behind the scenes on the book. We have Kickstarter supporters. We have folks who've taken the Present Yourself program. So many special and important people here today to help us celebrate. So thank you. If I don't know you, my name is Danielle Barnes. My pronouns are she and her, and I am a co-author of the book. I'm the CEO of Women Talk Design. And so just happy to be able to bring us together to celebrate this book. I have virtual background, have not figured out totally how to show things with. But the Present Yourself book is out this week. This has been, we say it's been over a year in the making, but truly it's been years and years in the making. For those of you who are maybe newer to Women Talk Design, you'll see a very important woman here named Christina Woodkey. Christina, do you want to wave? She is the founder of Women Talk Design. Back in 2013, she was speaking at a lot of conferences and events and found that she was often the only woman on stage. And the brilliant thing about Christina is that when she sees a problem, she does something to fix it. And so she started Women Talk Design as a blog where she could upload speakers that she knew in design and tech and then send it to event organizers and say, hey, no excuses. Look at this amazing group of speakers that you can invite to be part of your event. Then in 2017, she had two design students that she wanted to bring on board as interns to actually dig in more to the problem to figure out, why aren't there more women specifically on stage? And she led a GoFundMe campaign to raise some money and brought on board Jennifer Kim and Melissa Kim, who did a bunch of research talking to event organizers and speakers to figure out, okay, why aren't there more women speaking? They published their research findings. They redesigned the Women Talk Design website. But one of the really amazing things that came out of that GoFundMe was that so many people wanted to support what Christina were doing and said, I don't know how to fix this problem, but here, take my money and fix it. And in thinking about what she can do, she thought, in this research findings, there's a lot of reasons why women aren't speaking. But one of the reasons that come up is that they're not sure what they would share. They don't feel like they have the speaking expertise to be able to share their ideas. And so she wanted to create a workshop to, help them bring their ideas to life. And Christina and I have known each other for many years, tracing back to our days at General Assembly. And she asked me to pair up with her. And we brought on board Eleanor Mason Reinhold, who's another contributor of the book, to launch the very first Present Yourself workshop in San Francisco. It was a 2-day boot camp where folks came in with their idea. And then by the end of the weekend, they would have a short 5-minute talk that they recorded come out of it. And we got such amazing feedback from that we were like, we have to run this again. And as we ran it, we started to bring in other speakers we knew. So Alexis Wong came in and taught it with us in San Francisco. We brought it to Boston, and Meena Kothundaraman and Margot Bloomstein helped teach it. We started to then move it online, and we brought folks in like Tomami Sasaki, and we brought in other guest speakers as we converted it into the 8-week program. So starting in 2021, we have been running Present Yourself as an 8-week program. I know we have some of our alums here. And one of the really amazing things we were able to do with that is to bring so many of our guest speakers into the program to share their own expertise and advice. And so now fast forward to, okay, well, how did this become a book? We heard from folks who took the program that they wanted more folks to be able to get these lessons and learnings. And we had just put it into an online program. We wrote a lot of it down. So, maybe this should be a book. So in 2022, we decided to launch a Kickstarter to bring the community in so that we could self-publish this book. We wanted to bring on board contributors to write short essays. We wanted to be able to bring together a design and editing and marketing team that really reflected the amazing backgrounds and diversity of our community. And we wanted to share our lessons learned along the way. So I know many of you were Kickstarter supporters. You helped us bring this book to life. We've spent the past year writing and editing and designing, and I learned so many lessons along the way. Some of you might have seen I've been sharing those on LinkedIn. But today is such a special day because the book officially launched on Monday. And this book is a call for everyone to share their voice, to know that they have something to say that others need to hear, and to share that there's no one right way to do this. That's why we have all these contributors sharing their stories and their advice to say, maybe one thing will resonate with you, even if another doesn't. And hey, make your own way. Because we know that public speaking has not always been a level playing field, not just for women, but for non-binary folks and anyone who has been systemically minoritized. And so we want to call out those biases and say, we all need to change this, but also in the meantime, don't let that stand in your way. Know that they exist, but also know that you can be an impactful speaker who shares your voice authentically and really makes a difference. So that is a little bit about Present Yourself. I am so, so glad to have you all here today to celebrate. It's one of the big things that we talk about in the book is the importance of celebrating when you put something out in the world. It is an act of courage, and that's important to celebrate. So today in our celebration, we are going to have some readings by some of our contributors. We're going to have a fun Q&A. We're going to invite you to participate. We also have some fun giveaways. We're going to be giving away physical book copy of the book, digital copy of the book, a original Present Yourself workbook from when we ran the workshop in person, our notebook that we created for the Kickstarter campaign. So I encourage you to write in the chat to ask questions during Q&A. Liz from the Women Talk Design team is here, and she's going to be keeping track of who participates and doing a drawing at the end. And we'll choose some winners, and we'll follow up with you on getting you your prizes. So thank you all so much for being here. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Mino Kathandaraman to share her essay that she wrote for the first chapter of the Present Yourself book.
Wow. This is amazing. Well, before I start, I just want to really quickly say huge, huge thank you to Danielle and to Christina for putting this all together, all the people behind the scenes, and to these amazing other people on this call who have actually contributed to this book. I cannot wait to hear your stories equally. I just can't wait to read them. So I will just jump in with chapter 1. So I still look back to the first user experience, and this was then usability conference I ever attended in Pittsburgh. It was in 1994, as a huge, huge learning moment for me. I distinctly remember there was only one person of color and 2 women who presented in a long lineup of talks that spanned 3 days. In fairness, there simply weren't many people of color in the field of user experience research at the time, and I remember listening to every speaker with awe and taking copious notes, specifically on the language they used, as though everything was an absolute truth, never to be questioned. Perhaps someday I thought I, too, will be brilliant enough to present on stage to an audience that awaits every word I share. This hope sort of felt pointless to some degree. What could I possibly discuss that hadn't already been put out there? Would I have to invent a new topic? I certainly didn't look like the other presenters on the stage, so would I even be taken seriously? As I started my career, I relied on my notes from my first and subsequent conferences, and I used the languages of many presenters in my own work, regardless of whether it made perfect sense to me or not. There was only one problem, though, and one that became a harsh reality. I underscore that. What I ended up wanting to share was not my language. It was someone else's, someone who looked at content from a perspective that embraced their experience, not mine. The emphatic explosion of using someone else's language that I started with began to fizzle. Words that I shared suddenly felt ingenuous and lackluster, and I suddenly lost confidence in describing my own work because it didn't reflect the way I looked at the world of research. Story is like a cube with many sides. The cube stays the same, but when we turn it, we notice a different angle in how the story is delivered and ultimately heard. With great trepidation, I sought to change the side of the cube. Sadly, there were not enough research professionals of color to reach out to for guidance. People who might have a different lived reality from those whose words I was repeating. I was fortunate to gain the ear of a former boss, a woman who to this day mentors me in so many aspects of my field. In brackets, I love her dearly, and scrutinizes almost everything I put in front of her. When she pressed on me what the issue was, I told her I needed to talk about an existing topic related to qualitative research methods, one that many people have already spoken about, because there was an easier way to explain it. But who would listen? And what if people couldn't see my perspective? What if my perspective lacked connection because of my different upbringing, culture, and outlook? Her response, you won't know if you don't say the words out loud, so try saying them and see how it fits. Be open to receiving feedback and invite a conversation on your perspective. It was some of the most simple yet sage advice I had ever received, and it propelled me to think about the first presentation I would give. Brackets, it still is a big part of my life, and I think about that dearly all the time. She basically helped me hone my why, and I used that to create focus on my topic. Why did I want to give this talk when so many others had already spoken on this topic? The answer was clear to me because I wanted to describe known content differently and present a fresh perspective on how to consider it using my own words and my own lived experience. As a speaker, pinpointing your why is incredibly important for a pivotal reason. It gives you passion, conviction, and belief in what you share when you ascend to the stage. It helps you scrutinize the language you use, the specific words you choose, and the way you unfold your story about your perspectives. Identifying your why helps you position your presentation, decide who you might share it with, and clarify what you might expect out of it. Here are some examples of how your why can influence your presentation. I want to reflect on what I know. Use your topic as a muse and explore the angles from which you can describe it. You might not have only one point, but many points to make about your topic, some valid and some possibly not. With this approach, you allow the thoughts in your mind some airspace to aerate and breathe with no conclusive moment. I want to vocalize what I know. Use your topic as a way to share a pointed experience that will add to a body of knowledge, one that listeners can leverage when conducting their own inquiries. You contribute to an existing body of knowledge to widen the understanding of a particular piece of the content pie. I want to teach what I know. Use your topic to unravel a step-by-step approach to achieving a particular output, goal, or conclusion in a way that listeners can replicate so that they achieve the same outcome. You define an approach that creates clarity through a repeatable process with a predictable output. I want to challenge what I know. Use your topic to question perspective, popular approaches, or beliefs regarding the topic in a way that educates listeners on a broader understanding of the topic's pros and cons. You challenge topics so they are deconstructed and reconstructed with greater integrity. I want to inspire with what I know. Use your topic to open avenues to a new perspective so that listeners may light their introspective candle and allow the topic to glow more deeply and brightly. You spark curiosity, leverage knowledge and experience, and expose the topic's potential. These paths can really enable you to look inward when thinking about your presentation, giving you permission to stay focused and present with confidence whatever it is you deliver. Having clarity on your why can help you divine your own motivations and what you hope listeners will take away from your talk. Helping define your call to action through your why is beneficial for you and your listeners. When delivering a presentation, both the speaker and the listener should be fully benefiting from the experience. As a footnote, I am literally living this right now as I'm presenting in Thailand next week. So I really do believe everything I've written. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Mina. It was such a cool experience to hear you read your piece, because I've read your piece many times throughout this process, and I've always read it even just in like a slightly different cadence and tone, and to hear it come from you is such a special experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity, Danielle. I've loved working with you.
Awesome. Well, we have such a treat, y'all, because we have several of our contributors here today. We have 11 contributors to the book in total, and then 2 co-authors, Christina and myself. And we're going to bring up who is here today because we are going to do some Q&A. So how this is going to work is I have some rapid questions that I'm going to ask our group. You can see we are adding them to the screen right now. And then we also want to hear from you. So if you want to put some questions in the chat, you can also use the raise hand feature. We're going to start with our rapid first, but if you want to start thinking of those questions or putting them in the chat, you're certainly welcome to do that. And then we will switch over to that portion in just a moment. So let's see, do we have everyone's spotlit? I think so. All right, fantastic. I'm actually going to switch things up quickly just so everyone knows who's here. I'm going to have you do a quick, your name and what you wrote about. We're gonna keep it quick. So Mina, we had yours. If you want to just do a quick one, couple word summary.
Absolutely. Chapter 1, what's your why?
Awesome. Thanks, Mina. Alexis.
I am Alexis. I am in the chapter about shape representation and its architecture.
Sarah.
Hey y'all. Mine is about talking about hard things for yourself and sometimes hard things for your audience to hear.
Margot.
Catching people's attention, catching their hearts so you can catch their minds.
Kat.
Community. Even though writing is solitary, you definitely need to connect with your community of people around you.
Awesome. Paula.
Hi, I'm Paola. I spoke about speaking in multiple languages.
And then Christina, my co-author there, lots of topics. You're welcome to say something, but you don't have a specific topic. Which one are you most excited about?
I think it starts on chapter 1 and ends about 200 pages later. I mean, it's just, what can I say? Just holding in my hands is such an incredible experience, and I'm so proud of it.
Awesome. All right, let's go into the first question. How many of you have written a book before? Raise your hand. All right, lower those hands. First-time authors? I'm actually the first-time author. I haven't written a book before. I was just demonstrating. All right, let's see. Where did you write your essay? We're either at home, coffee shop, office. I'll call on you quickly to go around and say this. Let's see, Christina, where did you write the book? Not the essay.
Everywhere from my home office to Belize to a hotel room and client. I just, whenever I find a spot, I stuck my words in there, including the Medium articles that got rolled in that you fixed my grammar and spelling.
Paula, where did you write?
Home office, need the quiet.
Sarah?
No earthly idea.
Could
Could have been anywhere. It is a blur.
Margot.
Combination home office and sitting in the car in the parking lot outside something my daughter was doing, one of her afternoon things.
Kat.
Living room, couch, kitchen counter, dining
Alexis.
room.
Oh, okay. Many of the rooms. Alexis.
January in Portland, definitely my home. And sometimes I would actually speak it out loud to myself in the bathroom.
Mina.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry about that. In front of my fireplace with a fantastic glass of something that I was drinking, for sure.
Nice. All right. Well, I know all of you here not only write, but you're also speakers, which is very relevant for the book. So I'm curious, do you prefer speaking or writing? Kat.
Writing. I mean, I like them both, but I would probably say writing.
Margot.
Speaking, because it's usually based on writing, figuring it out, and then getting the feedback.
Sarah.
I think it's got to be writing. I mean, they're both terrible and then also beautiful. But I think writing has my heart the most.
Paula.
I think speaking. It'll start with it being in writing, but ultimately speaking because of the quick feedback from people.
Christina.
Writing all the way. I only speak because somebody's got to do it.
Alexis.
This is like book or movie. Speaking.
Mina.
Definitely speaking.
Okay, speaking of speaking, I'm skipping around the questions a little bit. Who would you love to see speak live, Mina?
Michelle Obama.
Kat.
I'm not ready.
All right, we'll come back to you. Alexis.
Oh, mine was going to be Michelle Obama. Caroline Wonga. She is the CEO of Essence.
Sarah.
I am the worst at these kind of on the spot questions. My mind goes blank and I know no names, but you know what I'm going to say? Danielle Barnes.
Yes.
Because I haven't seen Danielle give a talk live and I would love to.
That means a lot. Margot.
Since everybody's already taken Michelle Obama, I'm gonna say I don't know their last names. Well, I know one, Jane Pratt. I've heard her speak, and also Marjorie Engel. There was a Jacinta, Andrea Lee Lynette, and they were the founding editors of Sassy Magazine, and I think they helped me develop a voice as an early writer, as a teenager, and I want to hear them now.
I love that. Kat, we're back to you.
I'm going to go with Priya Parker. And I'm going to +1 Sassy Magazine because, yes, if you know, you know.
And I also encourage y'all in the chat, you can share who the person is that you would love to speak. I'd love to hear from y'all too. Paula, what about you?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just gonna +1 Michelle Obama. I'm gonna +1 Danielle Barnes. I'm gonna +1. I wish that we had everyone in this room here and had like a fun lighting talk experiment.
I love that idea. And also I've never been in the same sentence as Michelle Obama. And so that was a very cool experience. Thank you, Paula. Christina.
Oh, Danielle, I've seen you facilitate so many things, but I would like to see you just speak from your heart, man. Sarah nailed it. And as a distant second, maybe Amy Edmondson, because I just love her writing so much. But Danielle, we need more Danielle in our life.
Y'all, this is such a love fest. Love it. Okay, I actually asked the contributors behind the scene for celebration music, but I'm curious, and I gotta give a shout out to Molly who's here because this was part of her podcast presentation thinking. Molly and Mikey asked me for my walk-on music before speaking, and I'd love to hear from each of you. So we will start, Paula, with you. What is your walk-on music that you'd like to hear playing before you speak?
This is a terrible answer because I don't really like to listen to music before they speak.
You want silence?
I just silence, breathing, meditation, remembering why I'm doing the crazy thing I'm about to do.
Christina?
When I first started teaching, I was played ABC by the Jackson 5 and sometimes even do a little dance to it, and it just gets me ready.
Mina?
I have to go with Paula. I actually don't listen to music. I sort of read the room and hear the music or the sounds of people, whether it's very quiet or whether it's like I sort of use that to read how I get on the stage.
Conversation of the room. Alexis?
I'm a big soundtrack person. So the soundtrack to the first Wonder Woman movie is pretty epic.
Kat?
I'm going to have to go with Pep Rally by Missy Elliott. If you need to get hype, it's a perfect song.
Margot?
I like a lot of the high energy stuff, like something AC/DC, but I feel like the ultimate like speaker walkout music for me is Cheap Trick. I Want You to Want Me, because I feel like that is like the burning thing for so many speakers. Like, I need you to need me. Let's have this.
Sarah?
I honestly also would probably go silence, get my breathing right, but I'm gonna come out and say I'll try a Carly Rae Jepsen Too Much because I think too much is something I've been called in my life, and I'll just claim it and own it. Is it too
Love
much?
that.
That's your problem.
Love it. Perfect. All right, folks, I have 2 more rapid questions we're going to do. I would love to hear your questions. So start writing them in the chat or use the raise hand feature. We will call on you. But any questions that you have for our contributors, any questions about public speaking, any questions about the book, if you want to ask them to a specific contributor or author, just write their name next to your question, or you can just ask it generally. So again, start typing out those questions, start raising your hand. I'm going to go into 2 more rapid questions. Dream stage to speak on. Sarah, we'll start with you.
You notice any question that's like, I need to have an immediate and specific answer. I am a complete deer in headlights. Dream stage. Danielle, I do not dream of labor. Next question, please.
Great answer. Great answer. Alexis.
I feel like that answer was too good. Ted. Give me Ted. Stock.
Mina.
To think about this. I would probably go with something obtuse, like an unboxed festival that happens in multiple countries in Europe and APAC. So something that merges art and the work and the craft that we have.
Paula.
Probably something that a conference that doesn't really exist, but it would be like all Hispanic women, people in design or in tech. And that's the entire audience. That would be amazing.
There would
If anyone-
definitely be great music.
If anyone knows that conference, drop it in the chat so we can hand that to Paula. Christina.
Kind of missed the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, do you have a dream stage that you would like to speak on?
I'd rather moderate a panel of amazing writers, to be quite honest, than speak on a panel. There's something awesome when you're moderating a panel that you just get to ask every question you wanted to ask, sneak them in.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina. Margot.
I'm gonna say Ted, but I think I would say something either at the UN or the CDC, talking about how so much right now, so many of our big problems are because of poor communication and building trust in communication, and it's time to speak truth to power.
Pat.
I don't have a dream stage, but I think it would be some kind of event that, as unpopular as this opinion might be, it would be something probably virtual so that more people around the world could participate at the same time without having to be there physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. All right, y'all, now is the time to ask your questions. I can ask these contributors so many questions, but I want to give the audience a chance. So again, if you want to raise your hand, use the raise hand feature. It is under reactions, I believe. Or if you want to write something in the chat, I can read it out loud. But we'd love to have your questions for this incredible group of speakers and authors. Thanks, Mina. Someone recently told me that one of my strengths is sitting in the awkward silence. So yeah, ask your question because we are going to sit here in the awkward silence. Thank you, Julie. First question in the chat. Authors, how do you handle writer's block or any lack of motivation to write? So we'll keep this open. Who wants to respond?
I can kick off at least. I think when we sit down to write, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. I know I do. I'm like thinking about, will it do well or whatever, will people hate me when I'm up on stage? And then I say, you know what, let's just puke it out. And I know it's a terrible phrase, but I get a pile of Post-it notes and I think of every single thing. And if I can't think of anything, I think of bad things. Like what would be the stupidest thing I could say? And I just write them on the Post-it notes and then I put them on the wall. And then I do what any UX person would do and start arranging them. Although if you're on deadline, I've done crazy things like drink a pot of coffee with a shot of scotch between glasses. Like I've just done everything I can. And to be honest, it's a lot healthier to stick with the Post-it notes.
I'll add something if that's all right.
Go
Yeah,
for
I
it.
think one of the things that really helps me is sometimes when I'm getting into writer's block territory, what's actually gone wrong is that I've lost sight of, I'm getting into this like part that feels like work, and I've lost sight of the thing that got me excited or passionate in the first place. And so for me, I need a way to reconnect with that. And I think one of the things that honestly helps me is like to remember what I'm mad about. And what I mean by that is more like, what are the things that other people like, "Ugh, why don't they get this?" Or like, "Ugh, why aren't more people talking about this?" Like anytime I can tap into those feelings, it's like, oh, because maybe they don't know, they've never heard this, right? This is why this thing is needed. And so when I feel like what I'm trying to contribute is needed, like that it needs to get out into the world, then I feel that urgency again, and it reconnects me to that part of me that feels a little bit more like driven to just get it out of my system.
Anyone else want to weigh in?
I was gonna toss in there, I think for me, the thing that helps me get out of just hiding in more research and moving into creation and writing or getting it out into slides or whatever is to figure out my way in, to figure out, do I need to start this by telling a story? Is this something that's going to be driven by anecdote? Is it going to be driven by some big thesis statement? And then I need to support that. Is this about kind of illuminating some historic topic and then saying, here's how it applies now? And kind of figuring that part out less as a writing process and more as a kind of a storytelling process. Like, how do I want to convey this to the audience? If I'm telling this to a friend, where do I begin? What's that starting point? Then I can usually kind of move on from there. And Krista Stevens, an editor who used to be at A List Apart, she was the one that kind of pointed me on that path. She was like, figure out how you like to start, how you like to tell a story, and then just do that for the length of the book.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie, for the question. Thank you, everyone, for weighing in. We got questions rolling in on the chat, which I love to see. All right, we have one here from Sue. In your early years of speaking, could you describe when your application was rejected for a talk, or what you did, or adjusted to speak book or get booked or selected to speak? So if you ever got rejected, what did you do?
One
I
of the
don't-
very, oh,
Go ahead.
One of the very first talks that I gave was with Margot. It was a very long time ago, but Margot was a more experienced speaker, and we pitched something together, and it gave me a good opportunity to kind of get started, I think. And it made it a little easier to get selected because I think she was better known. So find somebody who has done it more and see if you can do something together. There's one way.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Kat?
My answer is not necessarily about responding, like resubmitting after a rejection, but more so just like being very specific in which conferences you maybe apply to speak at. Like I would say, if the abstract or if the lineup between you and the conference is like much more clear for the organizers to see, I just think that is likely to increase your likelihood of getting selected, as well as like differentiating your talk from other topics that may already be in the lineup there, or bringing a new angle or perspective on it.
So we have two more questions we're going to get to, and then we're going to move on from this. Ian asked, what is your best tip on asking for payment when someone approaches you to speak? Thinking specifically about a commercial conference.
So I think one of the great things to do is, and hi, Ian. Ian's been an amazing supporter to me over the years, and with Radical Focus and everything else. So I really appreciate you. I've got to say, you got to ask people, what are you getting paid? Especially for women, you've got to ask the men what they're getting paid. And then because it's so hard to ask sometimes, I find that creating a rate sheet is amazing. So I've just created a rate sheet. I used to have a role when I was a consultant in applies to speaking. Raise your rates every year until people say ouch, and then you know that's your actual rate. If they turn you down, you can always say, oh, you know what? I've been really thinking about it. I love your topics, so I'm going to reduce my rates, but just for this one time, you know. So don't be afraid of people saying, no, you're too expensive, because you can kind of wiggle your way out of it, but you'll never know what you're worth until people say, ouch. And having the rate sheet just lays out all your rates, and then you don't have to be the one to say it. My first consultancy, my partner would tried to train me to say, yes, we cost this much a day, without giggling, because I would collapse into giggles every time I told him what my rate was. But I can do it now. I can say, yeah, 20K a day, eat it or not, whatever. And practice helps a lot.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina. And we're going to move on to the last question for the sake of time. Natalie asked, conferences seem to have slowed down a bit recently due to layoffs, and it seems some of the remaining conferences are focusing on AI. What advice would you give for those of us looking for new or renewed opportunities to speak?
Roll your own. I would say, I mean, at the very beginning of yeah, I guess it was very beginning of the pandemic, I was seeing like some of the gigs that I had been talking with say, oh, well, looks like we're going to put it on hold for now. And I think, Danielle, you and I spoke around then, and also with Denise Jacobs. And we were like, can Women Talk Design do something? And that's when we launched, I think we called it Couch Cushion Conversations, because we were sitting on our couches at home. And we're
Margot's
like,
really good at titling
let's do an
things.
event.
Yes.
Great
So see
advice.
about like the meetups, the smaller groups, the whoever still needs speakers or still needs an event, even if it's virtual, and charge or don't charge, but keep doing it.
So, I realized there was one more question I wanted to ask that was a rapid fire, so I'm going to ask it, and then we are going to transition to our next segment. So this is for everyone, and it doesn't have to be exactly 5 words or less. The idea is just keep it short. But what is your number one piece of speaking advice in 5 words or less? I will start with you, Christina.
Do it.
Great.
I got it in 2 words.
Yeah, Paula.
Bring yourself to your storytelling.
Beautiful. Sarah.
Be even more you.
Love it. Margot.
Just keep applying.
I love seeing y'all count in your head. Kat.
Practice, practice, practice.
Alexis.
Just keep going.
Awesome. Round of applause for our contributors and authors. I loved that Q&A with y'all. Thank you so much. All right, so the rest of the time here, we're going to do 2 things. First, we want to do some breakout rooms, because I know you might not be able to go into them. That's okay. I encourage you to stick around. You can just like hang out here if you want some time, you know, not talking to anyone. But I do find that with our events, one of the best things is who you get to meet and talk to. So we're going to give you all some time to talk in breakout rooms. We're going to open them for about 7 or so minutes. I'm going to drop some sample questions in the chat. You don't need to use these, but the idea is that you can connect with other people who are here and also thinking about public speaking or book writing. Then we are going to come back. We have one more contributor essay for you, and then we're going to close things out with a final cheers and celebration. So we are going to open up those breakout rooms. We'll be there for about 7 minutes. There are some questions in the chat to get you started, and I'll see you all in a little bit. Y'all might
Go
need to
with, but-
accept.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, Danielle, I'm sorry, I would go into a breakout session, but I'm waiting for the meds to fight another migraine. So I'm just going to take a minute to
Yeah,
close my eyes. Okay.
no worries at
Sorry.
all. Thanks, Christina. Yeah, and anyone is welcome to stay here. So, and if you stay here, you can turn off your video. They're not having a separate discussion here. This is kind of the quiet lounge while everyone else is in rooms.
Yeah, I'm going to take a short break. I'll be back in a bit.
All right, thanks, Kat. Liz, do you have everything you need for drawings? Let's do, did we decide how many we were gonna do?
You want to do,
Thing?
here we go.
Welcome back, folks. I always hate to break up a conversation, but it is one of the beautiful things about Zoom is that you can bring everyone back together when you need them. I hope you had a nice time chatting with other folks, maybe people that you've seen before at an event, and maybe someone that you've met for the first time. Feel free to share in the chat here if you were in the middle of talking or if you wanted to stay connected with folks. I definitely encourage you all to keep sharing in the chat. You can share ways to stay in touch with one another. We have one more contributor reading for you, and then we are going to do a closing all together. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Margot Bloomstein, who is going to read her essay.
Hold on 1 second. I did have it up on a tab, and where did it go? Give me 1 second. I apologize.
No worries.
While I'm attempting to get to it, I'll go to the edited version. So the not entirely final version, I guess. So my contribution to the book was talking about how we capture attention and engage minds. And because I think if we all want to kind of move things forward or shift something or answer some problem, resolve some problem for our audiences, first we have to get them to kind of like lean in and want us to help them and want to hear from us. And my earliest experience doing that was as a 4-H'er in upstate New York. So that idea to seize their attention, draw them in, and teach your lesson, I feel like you have to catch somebody's eyes, hook their hearts so you can engage their minds, get them laughing, and then you can get them learning. And I learned those lessons first as I was preparing for my very first public speaking experience. I was about 10 years old and an enthusiastic member of 4-H, the national organization of clubs for kids who want to kind of learn by doing in a wide variety of life skills. For some clubs, it's about focusing on animals, and maybe they all raise cows or they all raise rabbits. The club that I was in was a little bit more broad-based, and we were learning things like sewing and crochet and macrame and cooking and baking. And some of those skills I learned and then have not used since. But it also focused on public speaking. So 4-H began as this organization that was devoted to passing along the wisdom of farming and home economics. And public speaking was really a core component of the education for us too, not just to learn techniques, but to demonstrate competency by teaching about what we had learned. So following a simple structure, 4-H'ers would learn to prepare brief talks, as well as a poster to accompany it, to share at the annual county-wide public presentation day. And then every summer, we would also enter those projects in the county fair, and we would present our work to judges wielding ribbons and hopefully smiles of approval. And the stakes were really high because in the late 80s, if you got a blue ribbon on like your sewing project or your cooking project or on a really impressive zucchini, you would win $5. A blue ribbon came with a $5 payout. And the summer that I was 10, we were gearing up for the county fair. And all I knew was that if I did a presentation on one of the things that I had learned about, that was also something that could earn me a ribbon and $5. And I knew that I had to catch people's attention if I wanted to teach them something. And I really wanted to teach people something so that I could earn that ribbon. So again, upstate New York in the summertime, not the most pleasant place usually, because you're batting flies and sweltering heat, because that is summer in upstate New York. And I gleefully embraced the opportunity to deliver a presentation there at the county 4-H barn amid those prize-winning pies and ribbon-worthy wood carvings and carefully crafted needlepoint canvases. So at my assigned time, I stepped onto the platform in this very cavernous space. It was a large wooden box that looked out on a few rows of chairs. And to the side was an easel that was sized for a sheet of poster board big enough to convey the main points of my 15-minute talk. And it had all the power that electronic PowerPoint slides would one day promise. So getting the attention of an audience isn't the easiest thing in the world, but getting and keeping the attention of a walking, talking, moving audience who are distracted and eager to move on to the next display, or like the racing pig exhibition, that is even harder. But if you can seize their attention and draw them in, then you can teach them a lesson, and that is easier said than done. So I didn't learn my lessons all at once, of course, because I think our learning spirals, kind of like the cross-section of a nautilus shell. We center ourselves around our earliest lessons, maybe where you collect information and then kind of spiral out and build your knowledge through successively more expansive experiences. I think we're not always aware, for me at least, like when I go around one more time, but sometimes you can stop and catch yourself and maybe see, like, when a concept feels familiar, that you've been there before, that you can learn and do better. And I think good speakers embrace that kind of process where they meet their audiences where they are, introduce the terminology of a topic, and then repeat concepts in successively more complex layers, finally, until you release them in this sort of centrifugal force from the spiral to be able to go forth and apply their knowledge in the world. So first, it means seizing their attention, drawing people into that spiral, catching their eyes so that you can hook their hearts and you can engage their minds. 4-H gave me that experience and taught me the structure and the techniques that I still use today. So I start by thinking of my talk in a simple kind of 15-minute structure with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I might start with a bold statement that draws in the listener and makes them want to sit down and hear more. Maybe ignore the racing pig exhibition. They want to hear me instead. And then I'll usually offer 3 to 5 proof points or steps to explain a concept. And standing on the platform at the county fair, I would periodically gesture to my poster as necessary. And that's the beauty of a single 22 by 28 expanse. You're forced to distill your ideas down to just what is necessary, just those few brief statements that can be read even by the people in the back row. Those are skills that serve you well, whether you're engaging an audience with slides or writing so that your pithy statements can make it into viral tweets or whatever we call them now. And then finally, I would conclude with a quick review. The statement that so many 4-Hers learned to say was always time for a quick review before a brief recap that would lead people into a big sort of so what conclusion or impact statement. How can you put this technique into play when you go back to the office tomorrow, when you go back out in the world? What are you going to do with this information? Corporate event organizers pay well for actionable thinking, just like 4-H judges gave us $5 for it back then. One year, this was about how to create a simple breakfast smoothie. Like, don't think you have time for a nutritious breakfast? Think and taste again. And with enthusiasm and bananas and a blender, I offered the promise of free samples. And it was just a few steps over 15 minutes, but it gave people enough information to do something different. By varying the context and the amount of detail in my key points, I could reduce that premise of the talk to a brief abstract, or now expand it to 45 minutes or a 3-hour workshop. So I still lean on that framework and the flow of energy that I discovered in 4-H. Over time, of course, I've added more nuance to the structure for more complicated subjects, maybe where the audience may not immediately accept an initial idea. I like to disarm them by introducing premises of an idealized solution to familiar problems. Or I might kind of beat them to the punch by setting up a foil and debunking it. I modulate my energy too, so that we can get successively more emphatic and aligned around an idea to arrive at a conclusion together. That kind of vulnerability can foster an audience's trust, and then the volume of detail that we share cements it. That's the stuff that I took from those days back in the county 4-H barn. And that's what I still bring into talks today. If the examples help me vary the tone of a talk, maybe I like to start out lofty and inspirational and then make it feel more grounded. In public speaking, I've found it always works best when we can meet people where they are and then move them to where we want to go. We convey knowledge through persuasive, engaging education to pull people in and move them forward. And I found that that works whether you're in a hot barn at a county fair or a frosty ballroom at an industry conference. The lesson is the same. When you catch their eyes and hook their hearts, then and only then can you engage their minds.
Thank you so much, Margot. Awesome, y'all. Well, it was so great to be able to hear again, just like your talk come to life or your essay come to life. So thank you so much for reading that for us, Margot. I know that we are just at time, everyone. We have a couple things to close us out today. First and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for coming here to celebrate the Present Yourself book and for supporting us all along the way. One of the things that I would love to hear from you that you can share in the chat is how you celebrate after a big project. This is something we've been thinking a lot about, being able to mark these big efforts and initiatives with a celebration. So I encourage you to share that. Liz has chosen some winners for us. I know from participating, I mentioned that you could get a book, you could get a notebook, or you can get an original workbook. So Liz is going to quickly share the names of those people. We will follow up with you an email to figure out what you would like and to share it with you. And then I will have one final closing, and then we can say goodbye. Liz?
Okay, everybody. We had a lot of participation, so that was really great to see. Our three winners today are Molly, who I know had to step away, but we'll get in touch with her, Dot, and Marwa. So the three of you are going to be hearing from us, and as Danielle said, you'll get to pick your prize.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz. And with that, I just want to say thank you all so much to everyone. Thank you to our contributors. Thank you to the Women Talk Design team. Thank you to my co-author, Christina, our editors, our designers, folks who worked on marketing, all of our Kickstarter supporters. This book was truly a community effort, and we truly want to hear everyone's voices. And so I ask for your help in spreading the word. I dropped the link in the chat. We will send a follow-up. We want to continue to share resources as well. Christina actually just sent me an example price speaker sheet that I will send to everyone. We're going to continue to update the Present Yourself Hub with more resources, book recommendations, sample extra section that didn't make it into the book. So we are so excited to continue to share with you, and thank you all so much.